Hey everyone, this is Rick with Techspin. I'm here with my new co-host Shane.
Hi.
And my good buddy Sam. And we're here to build a crypto mining rig. Sam decided to go ahead and build a rig for himself, so this is what we'll be reviewing today. So let's get to it. We're going to do some commentary on this now. We got our beers ready.
I know mine's ready.
I got this, Sam picked up this Asus Strix B250H gaming motherboard. And I think you can do a maximum of like 12 or 13 graphics cards on that one. But they released a new one in the middle of August that can support up to like 19 cards. It's crazy.
Now, the thing with this project was one of the main ideas was to get it up and running as quickly as possible with the idea of expanding on it a little bit later. So what happened was we got together and we set it up to do this build. Now, unfortunately, things ran a little bit late.
Yeah.
And we ended up spending a little bit more time focusing on just getting it together. And so certain shots just didn't make it into the cut.
Yeah, that's true. We were focusing more on building it than actually trying to film every detail of us putting it together. This is funny because this case came from China, and I ordered it for Sam because I had a online card that I could order with, and the thing kind of looks pretty good, but some major things with this with this case is that you can see like black flecks on the table from where the plastic had chipped off, and the build quality wasn't that great. We did pay like 200 or was it like 150 US or something for the case, and the fans, 9 fans, and they're all atrocious. I'll talk about that more later.
Now again, as I mentioned, the main focus of this was just to get everything up and running. So any upgrades, could happen at a later day, but Sam was very, very insistent on just getting everything together and getting started.
Yeah.
And then just picking it up, bringing it to a higher quality at a different time. But also, what was noticed is there were a couple of chips and scratches in the paint straight out of the box.
Yeah, I expected a little bit better build quality, but I mean, it was pretty much like a no-name brand for crypto mining, case. But yeah, I mean, it does the job. It holds everything, which is important. And if you didn't have this case, you'd have to find some other way to hold all these graphics cards. This case can hold like 13 cards, and it has the fans mounted, so it pulls the air through. So at least it's something there, anyways.
Now, you'll notice I'm very hands-on at this point, but I do tend to back off later in this video simply because in order to get a shot of what we were doing, I wanted to make sure that there were not too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, fair enough. It was, you helped out where you could, and then after that, it was just basically plugging stuff into the motherboard, which is really a one-person job anyways. And Sam was working on the power supply, Corsair AX1200, which you saw just before that. Interesting note is that he actually cannibalized the wires that were in the case that came with it, and he used the main power wire for that for his other rig for some reason. Anyway, we had to switch it out at the very end, which took extra time, and it was just a pain. But luckily, all the other connectors were the same, so that was good. Let's talk about the CPU, which you see the tray is open right now. I think he picked up a G3 930. It was either a 930 or 950, but for the extra 0.1 gigahertz, it wasn't worth the extra like $15, I figured. So that processor goes for 1,130 NT, or about $33 US. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
Oh, do you see that we moved the memory one slot over? I checked the manual, and the manual always says that you have to put it in a specific slot for it to work properly. You probably could put it in any slot, but
That's true, or at least one of the first two slots, at the very least. But a
Yeah.
lot of times, the manual will actually specify a very specific slot if you are not going to use the other ones.
Yeah, usually it's common sense would say it would be the one closest to the processor or the one furthest away, maybe. But yeah, it's in slot 2, I guess, for this one. And nothing special for the CPU cooler, as you can see.
Pretty much a standard or basic setup.
Sam just wanted to get that cooler up and running here. So, yeah, we just used the stock one, and maybe, we'll change it in the future. But, it's a Celeron is not actually doing a lot of processing power. All the processing power is done by the GPUs anyways that are plugged in.
Yeah, not only that, but it was more a priority to get the system up and running, and, in all honesty, with 9 cooling fans and a really low load on the CPU, it really wasn't a huge priority to upgrade the CPU fan.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, I had a hell of a time here connecting these iron things. I think one of them was already turned and pushed in, so I couldn't figure out why it wouldn't sit properly on the stupid CPU. So I had to look at it and get my screwdriver and undo the sides and figure out how it was going to go in. It was sitting right on top. It just wouldn't push in the board, and there was only 6 mounting points for this motherboard. So actually, if I was a little bit worried if I pressed too hard on the board, I didn't want to damage the new board. So I was trying to be really careful about it. And of course, putting in the RAM first. I don't know why. Now I have to do it again later.
I think it was probably putting in the RAM first, if I recall correctly, was, more of an idea of certain things were unpacked in order of where they sat on the table.
Yeah, that's true.
So unfortunately, the amount of planning that went into it was probably not as well thought out as it could have been.
Yeah, that's true. We did a lot of, because it's a new build for me too. I've never done a crypto mining rig before, so we ended up just trying to see how it would fit together. So we ended up plugging and unplugging stuff a lot when we were building this, unfortunately. Oh, here's the these are kits that you can buy online, and I don't think they're that expensive, but they're a PCI 1X slot, which are these really short black slots there. And you plug those in, and they have a USB cable running to the board, which clamps onto the bottom of the graphics card. And you got to supply them with power too. You can see the 4-pin Molex with the yellow and red wires hanging off there.
Well, the other interesting part about that is just the fact that when we were putting them in, we plugged them all up, and we had an idea of where we wanted them to go.
Yeah.
But if you noticed earlier in the video, we had removed one of the bracing brackets.
Oh yeah, that was near the start of the video. We took that right out because you can see the holes at the very top right of the screen that bracket goes in because we had to drop in the motherboard just to wire everything in and put everything in. It was just easier just to remove the bracket right off. Oh, this part's that Kingston drive. Yeah, the one really bad thing about this case, you can see it kind of installed now, like that, where it's standing vertically, but that Kingston SSD was just a nightmare. I don't know the designers ever actually had an SSD in their hand to see how it would mount, but the idea was that it would sit flat on that panel, and that's a great idea, but they made absolutely no room at all for clearance for the cabling, so there's no way you could have plugged that SSD in any way you sat it there. It's ridiculous. It's just wide enough to fit in there, but it's it doesn't have millimeters more to fit the cabling in at the back.
Well, I think the other thing too is those SSD drives are designed, like mainly to replace an HHD, which would have plenty of room in the slot that it's occupying.
Oh yeah, that's true, because the mounting pins on the back are actually a little bit higher. So yeah, you could probably do it with that. That's true. I didn't think about that. And here you can see the graphics cards. Sam had 2 GTX 1070s from Gigabyte hanging around, as well as one EVGA GTX 980 Ti, which is at the very top, just coming into screen there. So yeah, that was pretty good. So we did some test fitting and then screwed in all the cards, and then realized that of course we had to wire up all the power, and the fans on the case weren't even connected yet. and that was another. I think it was 20 minutes trying to connect those stupid 4-pin Molex. You could not plug them in. It was even the pins were aligned, and you wiggled them, and I ended up having to use one of those slip jaw wrenches, and actually like clamp it together, and that started damaging the connector, and of course I didn't want to damage the Corsair cabling, so I ended up pushing them together on the side of the case, using the case as an edge, and then trying to wiggle them in that way. But it was a nightmare. If you got a case similar to this and have a similar experience, I definitely recommend getting some quiet fans, because this thing sounded like a jet engine. We turned it on. Remember that?
Yes. Yeah, it was actually quite loud.
Overall, it worked out pretty good. This isn't the first time I've ever done multiple graphics cards, because I dropped two into my Tutankhamun case. I have two 970 GTXs in SLI, and that was interesting because I had to do some positioning and measure out the bridge and stuff. So I mean I can understand the challenge. This one's much easier. You don't have any bridges. You just have to slap them in. So at least there's that.
Now, the other thing about this too is if you go back to the Tutankhamun case, you'll notice that a lot of the cabling is very clean, whereas in this build, the cabling is okay, but there was no effort on presentation of the cabling.
Yeah, I don't think there's probably some guy on YouTube who has made a video about like a crypto mining rig with beautiful cabling, but the amount of money you'd have to spend on cabling would be another like 2 graphics cards at least, because the custom sleeve cabling is all really expensive. If you had to buy like 13 or 15 cards worth of cable, oh god.
and in this particular instance, the biggest priority was really just making it fit and getting it done.
Yeah. Oh, here we see that we took out the AX1200, and it's a HX750 that we're using, because Sam had a spare on hand just in case there were any issues. So that was pretty good. Yeah. And after we got everything kind of hooked up there, I think we were working on the Molex after this, so that was good.
Yeah, and the other thing too was before Sam showed up, we weren't sure what he was going to do for the power supply. He had talked to Rick about possibly using one of the power supplies that Rick has on hand but is not currently using. So yeah, we didn't know what power supply that we were going to be dealing with at this point.
Yeah.
So it was really sort of a last minute decision.
Yeah, it was pretty wild, because the case got shipped to my house. So I had a box and I had no hardware, so there was no like pre-planning and we're gonna shoot it this way or something. It was just like, all right, we got the components, let's try and slap together. So
yeah, Sam just sort of showed up in the mid evening, probably about 8:30, 9 o'clock.
It was around 8:30 or something.
Yeah. With a large bag of parts that needed to be assembled in this case.
It was a Costco bag, man. It was like a Costco bag.
It was huge. It looked
and it still had a backpack too. It was like one full, like one of those blue reusable Costco bags, like graphics cards and motherboards and stuff.
The kind that you can put bedding in. It's like, here's my duvet and like 3 pillows.
Yeah, this is pretty much the struggles with Molex. It was impossible, man. I've never had so many problems with Molex in my life. Alright, so that about wraps up this video. As I said, we didn't shoot a lot of extra footage, so what you see was what you get. But it's interesting, seeing a crypto mining rig being put together. Your thoughts on the build?
On the build, it was sort of sprung on us as a little bit last minute. There wasn't really like a whole lot of time to plan. But, everything went sort of smoothly, so there's no complaints there.
Yeah, it would have been better if we had a look at the components just at first, but it turned out pretty good, I think. How about on crypto mining? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's the same as any dealing with any sort of commodities or currency exchange. You really kind of have to know what you're doing, and it's a gamble.
Yeah, there's certainly an element of risk. Buying the computer parts, you get $100 for the components themselves, another $150 for the case. The real kicker, of course, is the video cards, which cost like $100 to $200 a piece. And if you're serious about mining, then you want like 12 or more cards like that. That's a lot of investment. So you know, if you start with a newer currency, I think you know, you may have a good chance to get in the ground floor and kind of build up on that currency valuation. But if you're trying for an older currency like even Bitcoin or something, it's nearly impossible. Like even joining groups, you'll get a small percentage and probably won't see a lot of return on that investment. So.
Well, I mean, it's the same with, you know, any stocks. Is, you know, a lot of people see it in hindsight. It's like, I should have invested in Microsoft or Apple or whatever when you know, the time was ripe and nobody believed in it. But, you know, once something has become successful, it's really, really hard to get into the market.
Yeah, that's true. I wish Sam all the best, and hopefully he can make some good coin on this new rig. Alright, so that's about it for this build video. So hit that thumbs up button if you thought it was great, or thumbs down if you thought it was terrible. If you want to see more videos like this, then please do subscribe for new content and click that bell icon to get notified when I put up a new video. I always do read the comments, so if you have some questions or if I did miss something, then please do tell me down below. And let me know what you'd like to see next. Thank you very much for watching. See you all again really soon, and bye for now.